What this is, it's a cross between bluegrass, Kentucky bluegrass, and Northern California Sansamia. So the great thing is you can play 36 holes in this in the afternoon and then just get stoned to the bejesus belt on it in the evening. Roll up a big Bob Marley joint. There you go. Here you go. Put some of this on top of it. Cannonball. Cannonball coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Rock and Roll, the podcast, featuring Dr. Nick Redbone, Tom Nelson, and me. Today's podcast is brought to you in part by
the Ring Doorbell, the preferred video surveillance system of arsonists everywhere.
Hey guys, how are you?
I've wanted a Ring video doorbell for quite some time.
I would like one too. And they're not too expensive. What is it, like $30 a month or no? It's less than that.
There's a subscription fee.
There is.
Oh, piss!
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah, it's not just the device. You also get
It's
to
the
pay them for the
Googles.
show. By the way, we are not endorsed. We do not have an endorsement from the Ring Doorbell people. But that's Brock.
Good disclaimer.
Hey. Hi.
That's Brock, by the way.
Yes,
everybody. That's Brock.
Brock.
Yeah, we do not have any money coming to us from the Ring people yet. But you know what? We're holding out hope that someday.
I have cameras at my house from a company called VLC. You pick them up for about $80.
Mm-hmm.
No monthly subscription.
Okay.
I've got 3 of them in the front yard, mostly just because I don't trust people in general anymore.
Right.
I get you.
You can log in on your app 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can download the video. It uploads everything to Google Drive. ALC.
Wow.
Okay. We're also not getting anything from them.
No.
My favorite guitar is the Fender Telecaster. Nobody really made anything better than the Telecaster.
Are we just make-a-wishing our sponsorship?
This show is not brought to you by Fender Guitars.
But it certainly could be.
It certainly could be.
In exchange for one delicious Fender guitar.
You know what I do with my surveillance system is I take saltine boxes, spray paint them black, and hang them in the corner with duct tape. Fools everybody.
Oh my God! And that's why I haven't broken into your house.
I bought my in-laws. My in-laws were getting crap stolen out of their backyard, and they sell on Amazon a fake camera that has a little blinking light for like $12. I bought it for them. It solved the problem. No trespassing sign and a fake camera. Grand total of the order was like $18.
And the sound effects of an angry mountain lion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 16.
Yes.
This is episode 16
It sure
of
is.
Rock and Roll, the podcast, and a pleasure to have you on board. Today, we're doing Lyricists.
Each other.
No, we are not, sir.
Damn it.
I beg to
There
differ.
goes my Christmas dream.
Is this on? I don't know what that means.
This Christmas season, hope for man on man.
What?
Huh?
This could be men's on rock and roll.
Jesus God.
It's like you're reading my Christmas list.
We're doing we're talking about lyricists today, and this one goes as deep as we look. Here's the thing. Tommy and I were just talking about it. There's no way that we're going to even scratch the surface of all of the great lyricists because and I think Tom nailed this best. Lyrics are so it's so conditional on what you find artistic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's what you want from your rock and roll. Do you want tongue-in-cheek dick jokes every other song? Do you want deep poetic, do you want stuff that sounds great when you're stoned? Do you know what I mean?
It amazes me how many people aren't paying attention to the lyrics. Because there is a whole population of people who are singing along to songs and they have no idea what they mean. A perfect example is Hinder's Lips of an Angel.
Yeah.
You would not believe how many times I've played that as a wedding song. That's a cheater song.
Yeah.
But they're not paying attention.
But they're not. What was the Police song? Every Breath You Take is a dark post-divorce song, and people play it at their weddings.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So the great lyricists, I think, and I guess maybe we should try and I don't know that we'll come up with a solid definition, not between all of us, but what makes a great lyricist to you?
If you can feel the song, I think that makes them a great lyricist. If you can connect with the emotion they're trying to convey in the song.
Okay.
There's so much that happens in pop punk where it's just so surface level bullshit.
Right.
But there are some that will write a song that you can really feel. And I know it's cliche that I reference Billy Joe Armstrong all the time, but his music quite literally got me through the darkest period of my life. I did not have a fantastic time growing up, and we'll leave it at that. And connecting with what he said, I mean, there were so many things that I could relate to. There were so many things that I could feel happening in those songs. Take, for example, the song about masturbation. That was my entire high school career.
Did you wash your hands before you came down?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, hey.
And I think relatability, that's a huge thing. You were in a period of time where what he was saying was resonating with what was going on with you in your life at that point. What about you, T?
Yeah. Well, I agree, and it's an emotional connection. It can paint a mental picture, so it can appeal to you on multiple levels. Whether it's a almost a type of life changing moment that you hear a lyric, or it could just be like, as you pointed out too, it's like, oh wow, you can it just tickles your fancy in whatever way.
Yeah, at that moment, it might just be, absolutely.
So I think a good lyricist just makes that boom emotional connection in some way or another.
One thing that I think should be, I think we have to point out is you can be wordy as hell and not be a great lyricist. I mean, I've read stuff that is, look, he used a lot of big words. He definitely dug deep with the thesaurus.
James Hetfield.
Okay, see, James Hetfield. Every once in a while, he'll have a moment that's good. But yeah, I agree. It's a lot of just, this rhymes when I bark it.
That's the other thing that drives me nuts. When
the rhyming.
They insist on right. You know who's the absolute worst in the biz, and my wife and I will make fun of him time and time again. Is Pat Monahan from Train?
Okay.
Listen to anything that comes out of Train.
Yep.
He has to rhyme. Like he will not. And some of the songs that he comes out with, you're like, what, dude? That a second grader could have done a better job. You don't need to rhyme. It doesn't have to happen.
Okay, sure. And it's not that his stuff is bad.
No.
But you're just saying. But it's
just bad.
When you become a slave to a formula, I think that's what limits.
And force it.
Yeah, exactly. And if he's doing A-Bs and couplets and that kind of thing, and is locked in it and doesn't know how to get out of it, man, he really limits what he's letting himself do.
And people obviously sense that too, or can see it. So, and that's just like, come on, man.
Exactly.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I would agree.
It takes away from it. Yeah.
A terrible pop punk song that I played you guys the other day from the band called Mess. There's two loves that I have in this world. My electric guitar, my electric girl. Like he's insisting on rhyming, but the problem there is that he wouldn't win a third grade spelling bee on top of the fact that he's insisting on rhyming every line.
Okay, so now there's on the flip side, back to the real wordies. I think when you get that guy, that lyricist who can make it completely wordy and still make it ride inside the melody. So it doesn't feel like he's forcing a handful of words on you. It's the natural flow of the song. That, I think, is the real trick. I think at least that's one of the keys to the ignition of making you identify with the song. Because we love to read it, but, that's the reason why I'm not a crazy Doors fan. I'll read Jim Morrison's lyrics. I don't necessarily want to listen to them, but whereas I could listen to, and people make fun of his vocals, and I put some lyrics in a little doc just so I could kind of show how this one works, like different writers. Dylan he could tell you a full story, and it still bounces along inside you want to be able to sing the songs you love.
Yeah.
And if it's a garbage melody, no matter how good the lyrics are, you're never going to find yourself singing it. The song Tangled Up in Blue, I think, is a great example.
I love that song.
I do too. It's one of my favorite of Dylan's tunes. And it's so wordy. Early in the morning, the sun was shining. I was lying in bed, wondering if she'd changed at all, if her hair was still red. Her folks, they said, our lives together sure was going to be rough. They never did like Mama's homemade dress. Papa's bank book was never big enough. You already got a story. You've already been introduced to 3 different characters, 4 if you count the narrator, and that's the beginning. That's the first verse.
It's like the EKG of a stroke victim. It's just like this.
And it does a da 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 da.
I love it.
I do too, and it's so wordy. I mean, the only reason I haven't done that one in a band myself is because I don't want to memorize all those lyrics. I'd have to read that song.
It's almost like rapping.
It really is. It really is. So
rapping. Talk about horrible lyricists.
Well,
There's a lot of bad.
There is. There's also some really good, though. I mean,
and most of that came out of the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah, there's some really intelligent. A good friend of all of ours that I'll go ahead and we'll name drop him. Listen to Joey Bravo's lyrics sometimes.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend his stuff enough. If you're a hip hop fan and you like deep, meaningful lyrical stuff, give him a listen. Just don't listen to him on the radio.
And about the nicest dude in the world too.
Huh?
About the nicest dude you're gonna meet.
About the nicest dude in the whole world you're gonna meet.
Man.
So you can. There's that fine line. Now, I think to identify who the great lyricists are, we must take a moment to pick on some bad lyricists.
Sure.
Let's talk about what is bad. At least in our book, what is a bad lyricist?
I think I go back to Pat Monahan.
Okay.
There's nothing to that song other than rhymes. Like, he insists on rhyming. Honest to God, go listen to any song from Train.
Okay.
And you'll hear exactly what I'm talking about. It's just terrible.
You're going to be chasing people to Train's YouTube channel on this one. Very nice.
Yeah,
hell yes.
Little did you know the only sponsor we have is Train.
Hey.
Oh, see what I did?
Hey, so sister. Hey, Mr. Yeah. Oh yeah. Every song.
Wow.
Rock and Roll Unplugged, the podcast. So another bad one, and I just have to point him out. I think Gene Simmons from Kiss is the worst lyricist I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. He doesn't even know what half of it means. Like Deuce, the Kiss song Deuce. You know your man is working hard. He's worth a deuce. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Don't you just get the feeling he sits down with a legal pad and just puts words together?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, exactly.
When I was in a band, there's only a couple of songs that I ever actually wrote, because I'm a drummer.
Right.
And I learned very early on that lyrics are not my thing, because I found myself in a thesaurus
Okay.
trying to find something that rhymed. Just like I just gave I crapped all over Pat Monahan.
Right.
It's exactly what I was doing. And that's when I was like, nah, it's not my
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing, and we just illustrated it with Gene. Okay, the Kiss music had hooks, had big. You could sing along to it, but the lyrics didn't necessarily. They were for the most part garbage, and for the most part, they didn't matter. Where do lyrics matter, or do lyrics matter?
Oh, I think they absolutely
matter. I think they can matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Within the confines, within the structure of the song. I mean, if you can marry those two really well together, that's what makes a great song, whether it's a hit or not. Tangent. We just went on one. It just about took us down one.
Really? Well, now we can always go down on. Remember, this is our podcast, and we don't have any sponsors. At this point, we can still do what we want. Like and subscribe.
Hey. I think country music does an incredible job, even though a lot of the lyrics are terrible. They're relating to everyday folks.
Okay.
I mean, that's why there is that connection between the audience and the country musician, because they're relating to pickup trucks and getting your truck stuck and drinking beers and
Do you think that's inherent to the genre? Do you think country music fans maybe are listening for lyrics more than, say, a rock music fan would be? Do you think?
That's interesting.
I think people who listen to mainstream music in general, I don't think that's limited to country. I mean, because you listen to the radio and you already brought it up, you want to sing along to the songs.
You bet.
You want to sing along to your favorite songs. And when they're singing about the crap that you do when you're out enjoying a good night, I think it's not exclusive to country. I think it's all mainstream genres do that.
Okay.
But I guess I was thinking, do you think it's more prominent in country? I seem to pay attention to country songs lyrically more when I listen to them than rock or pop. When I was growing up, it was always the melody or whatever that got the music got my attention.
Me too.
The lyrics, I was like, they could have been talking about cheese, pizza, and puppies. I would have known.
And that's kind of where I was too as a younger kid.
I wrote a song about cheese, pizza, and puppies one time.
I think that's going to be
it's called
huge
Cheese, Pizza, and Puppies.
That's got
from his debut album,
all over it.
Cheese, Pizza, and Puppies. So I think the fact that you hit on it, the lyrics being relatable, because you can write from that internal real life space, or you can write kind of, for instance, let's think about some of the nonsense lyricists, and I love their music to death. Every once in a while, Fleetwood Mac, and it was Stevie Nicks. Stevie tended to write about a lot of almost nothing. It was a lot of
ethereal.
Ethereal
type
mists
of-
and fairy tales and gold dust women and the chain and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're going, what?
Yeah, what are you? But at the same time, now it is sort of a bouncing poetry. It doesn't mean much. Is she a good lyricist?
I think so. That stuff is kind of fun, and I can't say that I've heard a lot. I have not heard enough Fleetwood Mac to memorize lyrics and stuff, but that's kind of fun because it's almost like the difference between an autobiography and reading like a science fiction novel.
Okay, sure. Now, Tom and I, we've both swum around in a lot of Fleetwood Mac over the years.
Did you say swum?
Swum. I don't think it's a word.
No,
it is now.
This portion of the podcast,
you know what
brought
swum
to you,
rhymes with,
huh? This portion of the podcast brought to you by the word swum. It's not real,
but I approve. I approve of that word.
Now, I don't want to ask for you to add anything to the screen. Because I know you're busy.
Yeah,
but God, could we put
that's what holds up the podcast.
I know. But
drop in beer cans and things like that. It makes it fun, but it also takes a
Could you just sneak the word swum in somewhere?
Just shut the hell up.
Okay, I really want to see swum.
You can go type it on a keyboard.
No promises then. No swum. There will be not a swum.
There might be a swum.
Okay, if it doesn't appear in the video, could somebody please in the comments, please like and subscribe and leave a comment.
Swum.
Just type the word swum. Thank you. Now I don't even know where the hell we were. Okay, the poetry nonsense lyrics. Is that still a great lyric?
You know, I think if the marriage between it and the music is good, it doesn't have to be deep. I don't think lyrics have to move you. You don't even have to if it goes with the music, because otherwise you can read a poetry book.
Okay, yeah, it's almost like an abstract painting. You can make of it what you want to make of it. Yeah. What does Gold Dust Woman mean? Well, it might mean something to me, and it might mean something different to you, and maybe that was the goal.
Yeah.
You know? Now, talking about lyricists, and I love the fact that you brought us to this one. Country talking about real life. Now, what about people who do write about their real lives, but they have lived extraordinary, depraved lives? Tommy knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Yep.
The late, great Warren Zevonne wrote about his... Zevonne, he's one of the great singer-songwriters, kind of underappreciated because people know him for Werewolves of London, Excitable Boy, maybe... Carmelita, but that was because Linda Ronstadt covered it, right?
Yeah, or maybe
Poor Pitiful Me.
Yep.
Sure. But past that, the guy had a super deep songbook, and he would write nonsense. I mean, he would write stuff that you could tell he was clearly drunk or high when he wrote it. Like the Headless Thompson Gunner, Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner. That's a crazy song. But he would write things like, excuse my phone, don't mind this.
Are the cookies done?
The cookies are done.
Okay.
For instance, he wrote Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. And it's about a guy floating around Denver and being kind of suicidal and hanging out in bars and talking to friends. And he's just kind of falling.
I think that's fun.
And that's the thing. Yeah. He probably did roam around Denver sort of drunk and suicidal. For sure. And he also but he could also at the same time write just these deep, beautiful, poetic things. Is that gritty, real, this is what I'm doing. I'm sitting in a bar drinking rye whiskey, talking to my buddy who's tossing back Jack, and we're talking about the best way to die. Is that entertaining? Is it equal as far as art to the Bob Dylans or to the poets?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't see why not. I mean, it's just a different take on what would be a creative or appealing.
Sure.
Again, it depends on the individual.
Right.
I mean, somebody could look at the the Roland lyrics and go, "What the hell is this?"
Right.
And then you and me can go, "Oh wow," because we know the backstory.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. Okay. Sure.
Look at a band like Starset.
Okay.
Dustin, I can't remember his last name. I mean, he and another buddy of his in the band, they write graphic novels and comic books and stuff like that.
Cool, yeah.
And they have this whole storyline. It's almost like they've taken things a step further than concept album. They're almost like a concept band.
Okay, sure.
But I take nothing away from them for getting creative in writing about their imaginary intergalactical experiences and stuff like that.
They created their own world, and now their music inhabits it.
It's like when D&D nerds write music.
Yeah, sure.
Is that what hyperpop is?
Hyper pop?
Have you ever heard of hyper?
Never heard of the
No.
phrase.
Yeah, I think this is of Japanese origin,
Okay.
and it's very techie. And I just ran across this, probably doing some research for one of these podcasts. But it's an actual format that is kind of being created on its own.
Wow.
Outside of the.
So this is for young people too.
Oh, it is. It's put up by young people.
Is it like K-pop kind of, or is it something different?
Or is it the kind of thing where it does live in its own weird little reality?
Well, my understanding is it's just kind of like in its infancy. It's just being born. I suppose it might be like K-pop.
Okay. It might use some of the same devices.
Yeah, it's a DIY kind of thing that very young people are doing as a format, but it's not an established type of.
Did you just say DUI instead of DYI?
I think
I probably did.
I heard that too. You know why?
DIY.
Look,
Flashback.
hey,
flashback.
we're radio DJs, and at least one of us in this room has had a DUI.
At least one.
At the very least one.
And sometimes some have missed it by that much.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What?
Okay, so
Where were we?
I think we were.
Suddenly very thirsty.
It's whiskey time. It's whiskey time. This portion of the
When you
podcast brought to you by the fact
relax.
that we are not drinking whiskey, as far as you know.
That really should be a thumbs down, not a thumbs up.
Oh yeah, if we're
That's kind of a
not
bummer.
drinking whiskey, that's a thumbs
Who's
down.
to say that we're not?
That's who's to say, Tommy, Brock. Who's to say? I just reversed your names.
This I sense this is going in the way of the 12.
No
real
way.
quick.
No, we got to say it. We can't let this devolve into a 12.
Let's bring it back. Let's
Okay.
bring it back to life.
Okay,
Let's
so-
talk about.
So I ask you now, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Into the periods that we sort of represent on the podcast. Tommy is the 70s kid. I'm the 80s kid. You're the 90s kid, Brock. Pick one of, I'm not going to ask you to pick your favorite. It's impossible. We're music guys. Pick one of your favorite lyricists from your period of time, unless you're confident in saying who your absolute favorite is, but pick at least one favorite from that. It's got to be hard for Tom because Tom is in the realm of the
Good
the
stuff,
album,
man.
the album rock stuff.
Yeah, it is tough, man.
I think from the 90s, obviously Billy Joe. I mean, that's a go-to, and I already kind of explained that earlier in the podcast,
Yeah.
and that I related to a lot of his stuff. But there's a lot of
In case you missed it earlier, in one of the previous podcasts, Brock admitted that he went to prom with Billy Joe from Green Day.
believe it or not. There's a lot of bands in punk rock that were kind of part of that anti-establishment movement. That
Right.
I drank a lot of that Kool-Aid.
Yeah, sure.
Growing up, Anti-Flag and Bad Religion and Alkaline Trio.
Right.
And a lot of bands that kind of shaped who I am in terms of what I believe is right and wrong in society and politics and
Okay.
things like that.
Okay. Okay. That very cool. So, and it hit you. Why was that your favorite? Because of just being absolutely relatable to dual philosophies?
I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I grew up in a very small town
Okay.
in North Dakota. Well, it's not very small. I mean, I think it was like 15,000 people in the town that I grew
Gotcha.
up in. And so it's not tiny. It had a Walmart.
Okay.
But no Starbucks. And I grew up believing that there was one way of thinking.
Okay.
And I could never really bring myself to agree with that way of thinking, but
You were the rebel.
that's what I was supposed to do. I mean, this is what you're supposed to believe. This is who you're supposed to support. This is right. This is wrong. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
And then I find punk rock, and there's this whole world of people who are way more in line with what I thought was right.
Sure. Suddenly you had that, you found relatable, somebody related to you, you related to them, and it was
Yeah.
a view outside of the porthole.
And
it's a big moment, isn't
Yeah.
it? Man?
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now, thanks to that, my family tries to pretend like I'm not the godless heathen that I am.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Boy,
That
you
is awesome.
Boy, what a disappointment you are.
Oh, sure.
Whew. Tommy,
Well, look at me.
Right? Right? If it makes you feel any better, I'm never disappointed. But I don't expect much.
Ooh,
Right?
I look like the Golden Corral.
No, you don't.
What?
No, you don't.
It was pretty random. I don't know.
Okay, Tommy, you're lyricist.
Now I want the Golden Corral.
Or cheese pizza and puppies.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You can get both on the Golden Corral buffet.
And we're not going to have a graphic of that either.
Nope.
No, that's not
No, there won't be any graphics.
You know, man, It's tough to pick one. I think of and I'm just talking about rock and roll lyrics.
Yes. Yeah, because there's
not
country
just pop and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff, the subgenres of popular music and rock. But, you think about Springsteen. I mean, he's got some great stuff. You've got even Mick Jagger. Underrated, I think, underappreciated. With
I would agree.
The sexual innuendo and double entendre stuff.
For sure.
Dylan, of course, I'm going to probably have to go with Morrison, just because that period in my life, it was in college, and I was introduced to a lot of things, including great classic music, classic rock music, The Doors, and I just love
Gotcha.
His lyrics are great. I mean, I think they fit the music really, really well.
For sure. It's so perfect for that psychedelic.
Storm, and there's a killer on the road.
Yep.
His brain is squirming like a toad. Take a long holiday. Let your children play. If you give this man a ride, sweet family will die. Killer on the road.
Yep. Yeah. Who writes that? And then meanwhile, underneath it, that doom 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 doom. It really is. It's beat poetry. It really is beat poetry. For me, I think, and once again, I still get. I'm in the '80s, but I still get Springsteen, and I still get. Once again, I could write. And I'm trying to say just in rock and roll, I could do a whole podcast just on the Willie Nelson songbook alone, much less, the Waylands and whatever. But as far as the 80s go, a guy that made his mark with his lyrics and it continued on into his career even to this day, I got to go Sting. We got him first with the Police, and he was great then. And then he, Fortress Around Your Heart.
Yeah, that whole album, Dream of the Blue Turtle.
It's just
solid,
isn't it? So solid.
Yeah.
The 10 Summoners Tales, the whole album is good. An album dedicated to sort of him feeling his way through losing his dad. I mean, that's what that, and once again, it's the example of somebody who's obviously hyper literate. He was an English teacher, I think. He knows his literature. He knows how to work words together, and yet he's still such a musician that it never feels like he's preaching at you. It sounds like he's singing a poem to you. Yeah. And that never gets old.
That's really well put. Yeah, exactly.
That never gets old for me.
Yeah. There's so much music from the 70s that you can't even find anything today that is even like take Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, where it's almost like a rock opera. There's so many things that are happening in that album that go above and beyond the music itself.
Yeah, it's when you see it and when you listen to it all as the one big spectacle that it is.
Yes,
the storytelling and the writing in it. Just if you just read it without any of the music, it's still just. What a journey. I mean, I think I liked the great lyricists, for me at least, because when, I was the kid that liked rock, once again in a small farm town, and I was the one who had to kind of defend the faith. Like, hey, man, listen, don't turn, for instance, this is a great one. Slayer. I was the Slayer fan, right? There was a handful of us in Filer High School when I was a kid in this little town in Filer, little town in Idaho, and I would get, oh, nice, Slayer, yeah, that's great. You play that to your mom? But then I could, you know what I mean? Like I'm this close to being run out of town and soaked in holy water on the way out.
You're a bad seed.
I'm a bad seed.
You're listening to Slayer.
And it's dumb and it's caveman music and to a certain extent it is. But then they would have lyrics like minutes seem like days since fires ruled the skies, the rich became the beggars and fools became the wise. Whoa, from what? From a band called Slayer with a big old dumb pentagram on the cover of their album. It was those kind of things that you could use and say, look, the stuff I'm listening to, just because it's loud doesn't mean it's dumb. Right. Some of rock and roll is loud and dumb. See Kiss, but at the same time, you can have loud and brilliant. And I think that Rush is a great example. I think Neil Peart is one of the greatest lyric writers I've ever heard. He wrote 99.999% of the words that came out of Geddy Lee's mouth in that band.
Jonathan Davis, another one. Who's
from Korn.
Loud but brilliant.
Yeah, very much. And he's another one of those kind of broken poet types.
So broken.
Yeah.
Listen to that first album. I mean, things in the world of Korn have gotten very watered down in recent years because now he's famous and but if you go back to rock hard. Like the self-titled disc from 94, Life is Peachy from 95, and even to an extent, was it Follow the Leader in 97, the one with Got the Life?
I think so.
That's where you could start hearing things change, where now instead of writing because he has things to say, he's writing because he wants to sell records. But those first few records, that guy was brilliant.
Yeah.
And still is. I take nothing away from him. It's just different now. In fact, I had this ramble on the air. But that guy, that's some of the darkest shit you're going to find.
It really is.
Wow.
I would give, you talked about Billy Joe Armstrong, and I think everybody in this room will probably agree. American Idiot, the album, the concept album, the songs that came off that album, and then the subsequent Broadway musical that was a big hit right behind it. What a storyteller.
Yeah.
What a songwriter.
Well, and they never expected that to happen.
Right.
It just happened.
Yeah. And another one of his songs, when my dad passed away, he passed away in September 2011. And that song, Wake Me Up When September, oh my God. That was almost a religious experience for me during that month. That one always seemed like, I don't remember seeking it out, but it always felt like it was on in the background. I just kept hearing it.
Wow.
And now that song inhabits that spot. And that's
what that song is actually about. Is Billy losing his dad.
Yeah. At the end of the day, isn't that what you want from you? If you're a lyrics person, isn't that what you want the lyrics for? To give you a certain feel, to remind you of something, to be a touchstone, to be it fits on that emotional puzzle piece in your soul.
Yeah, to move you and take you to a different place. No matter what kind of place it is, it's a great place. It's a sad place.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it should do.
Absolutely. But even at the same time, like listening to Journey songs, like he sings. Stephen Perry admitted that he wrote songs all about being in high school. All of his songs are basically based on the wonderful time he had in high school. Hanging out with girls in the summer and hanging out. The high school experience marked him so much that when you listen to those songs, you can hear what Young Love sounds like because he sang it from the top of his lungs and he wrote right from that spot in his life. He doesn't try to say that he's not Dylan, but he evokes those fun summer nights that you had when you were 16 and didn't worry about much.
You made me think of Jim Steinman.
Okay, my gosh. Jim Steinman, for those of you who don't know, and Brock just gave me the, huh?
Yeah.
A little bit like the RCA dog. It was a slight tilt. It was the, huh? Jim Steinman wrote Bat Out of Hell 1, I think Bat Out of Hell 2.
Yeah.
He wrote some stuff for Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart he wrote. Jim Steinman, another guy who creates worlds with his lyrics and then puts you in it. Listen to the lyrics from any song on Bat Out of Hell. The motorcycle song, the end of the story where his heart explodes out of his chest and it's still beating. And I mean, he writes these movies. That's so great. And you've got to have great lyrics to take you into the world to get the full trip.
Yeah. I think that's a great example of a perfect marriage of lyrics and the music.
For sure.
That's one of those albums.
It really
Bat
is.
Out of Hell.
It's damn near perfect. And we haven't even mentioned the Beatles. We haven't even mentioned Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
And we knew he couldn't.
We haven't even mentioned, Mellencamp singing about farmers in the middle of the country in the middle of the 80s. There's so many stories to be told, and the great singers, songwriters, I think, regardless of whether they're telling you their story, a story, or a story you get to kind of make up on your own, that's what you want at the end of the day, isn't it? Don't you want a story at the end?
And I think that's something that very early on turned me off about country because those artists did not write those songs.
Sure.
The world of country is so much, this is the guy who wrote the song and he sold it. And there's a few in country like Phil Vassar. Phil Vassar had some success as Phil Vassar,
right?
But really his money came from writing songs for other people. And it's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around a singer who's singing this really emotional song, but he didn't write it or she didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it. It's almost too superficial for me.
Sure. Yep. And I think, that's just sort of the difference in, because rock and roll has always been a little bit more self-contained. Like we write it, we create it. It's since the Beatles. That's what it became. Of the bands, here's one. I love Led Zeppelin. Once again, we've covered that a million times on this podcast. I don't know that the lyrics were super great. I mean, there's some of it that's good. Some of it's good, like Kashmir is kind of a neat desert poem. And, 10 Years Gone is about a love that didn't work out. And 10 years later, you're still thinking about it. That's cool. But at the same time, they also have a whole lot of love. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ooh, baby, baby in Led Zeppelin. And ooh, baby, baby is a great way to sing a note. But it's not a great way to necessarily tell a story.
Right.
And that's, once again, it's okay.
It is.
I'm not chasing Zeppelin for lyrics so much.
Right, exactly.
I'm
all
just
in context.
Yeah, the world they're
Yes.
creating for me is it's a different thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But once again, at the end of the day, you can analyze it all to death, but they're all different because everybody's going to feel a song a little bit different. And that's the best part about a great lyricist. Here you go. What story is this for you? And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it touches your heart the way that it did mine when I wrote it. And thank you for paying for the record. Daddy got paid.
Yeah.
It's only rock and roll. And it's commercial.
Yeah.
I think did we cover the base? We did dip dangerously close to a 12. I think we did one of these. I think you know what I mean.
We saved it.
I think we saved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there for a minute we were saying the prayers on the downway slope of the airplane.
Yep.
I love you guys. I can't believe we're gonna live.
Yeah, we made it.
We're just seeing who's paying attention.
Please, if you've enjoyed this podcast.
Talking.
Just washed my mouth and can't do a thing with it. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe. Share it with a friend. Share it with an enemy. Share it with a loved one. Share it with somebody because we are trying to grow it. And by all means, if you have any ideas for the upcoming podcasts, let us know in the comment section below. We would love to hear from you and continue doing Rock and Roll the Podcast. We're having a blast doing it.
Hey, I wanted to throw something out real quick before we wrap
Yes.
up. Because for the first time, and I knew this was going to come up, I caught hell from somebody because we're not socially distanced and we're not wearing masks.
Okay.
Oh, really?
What I'd like to point out is that we're very smart about what we're doing in public.
Yeah.
There are other people in the building who I would not get even sort
Absolutely.
of this close to.
Yep.
But I know outside of the office and outside of our homes, we're all being very smart about
Yep.
wearing masks,
Yes.
Yeah.
staying
Yep,
safe.
true.
We're checking temperatures and
We're-
making sure that it's
We're also pretty much shut-ins.
yeah, we don't leave the house.
Well, and we made out before the podcast started.
So
Before the podcast.
the conversation is really a non-starter because we did things that go far beyond like and subscribe.
I'm Dr. Nick Redbone. That's Tom Nelson. That's Brock Johnson. This was Rock and Roll the Podcast. Peace, love, and rock and roll. We're out of here.